Okay. Hi everyone. Good evening. Just react if you can hear me. I hope everyone is doing okay. A reaction or message would be nice. Just to confirm you can hear me before we begin. Okay, amazing, amazing. So my name is Shalom Jacobs. I'm going to be the one taking the class. And yeah, we're going to be talking about the art and strategy of design. I think I'm going to turn my video on just so you all can see if I'm AI or real. So human here. So I'm going to reshare my screen now so we can start. Um, okay, I'm hearing that you guys are usually a bit late, but I think we can start. I think we have considerable number of people here. I'm just going to see how I can stall before so we have everyone maybe by 6:10 and then we'll start. Um, okay. Yeah, I presume you can see my screen now. Um, okay. All right. So welcome everyone. And yeah, thank you to Alt School for having me. And I genuinely mean that. But before we get into anything, thank you all guys for joining as well, everyone that's here. Um, Before going into anything, I want to set the tone for tonight. I hope this is not going to feel like a lecture. So I want people to interact or raise a hand or anything. Because I will be having sessions, specific places where I ask a few questions. And I would love for us to participate. Um, yeah. So we've said art and strategy. So about me, I'm a creative designer, a brand strategist, but I also do video editing and animations as well. All that in one brain. And it can be a lot. So if you are someone who's still trying to figure out what niche to focus in, but yeah, there's something I do compound, but let's go. These are some of my channels. If you want to learn more about me, you can check that out as well. So we're going to be talking about three case studies later on. Um, and that's just before we get into like the theory, I just want to show you real work much later because everything that I would have said tonight is easy to agree with in a deck, right? It's easy to look at it in a deck and say, oh, okay, this is what he means, this is what it means. But when you go back, right, when you actually look at it or applying it, it hits a real problem. So we have three Hi everyone, can you hear me now? Sorry about that. I think my network cut off for a bit. But I'm back. Can you all hear me? Perfect. Yes, amazing. I think Precious is one of the active ones today. So Precious, I know your name now, so okay, Khalid. So I said Amadibu. So two of you that I know your name, if I have questions, you're going to be the first that I'll call. Um, until someone else say something. But um yeah, so just let me go back to okay. Yeah, so my question was, and I hope that we can, I don't know if everyone heard when I asked the question. So when someone says they're a designer, what is the first thing that comes to mind? I want people to answer in the comment. So maybe you have a friend or a sister, if they say, "Oh, I'm a designer, or a graphic designer or product designer," what's the first thing that immediately comes to your mind for that particular, um, if someone says that's their career path? Um, yeah. Anyone want to answer? If I see three answers, then we can move on from this. But I need at least three people. Precious, Khalid, and let me see whose name I'm going to drag. Here, Daniel said Taylor, okay. So if the person says, "Oh, I'm a graphic designer," what's the first thing that comes to your mind? If the person says, "Oh, I'm a product designer," what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Generally around visual brand and what we're doing, right? Generally around digital design. What are the first things that comes to your mind? Now, the reason why I'm asking this, right, is, and I'm gonna give like context. I was okay, Precious said visual effects, pictures. I was, I mean, there's this conversation, I don't know if everyone saw it on Twitter, where someone was like, "Oh, I don't know any designer that has been able to buy a car from, design, or I don't know any designer that's been able to, buy a house or something like that." Right. And to further put us in a box, I was in church on Sunday, and I think the pastor said, "Oh, if someone came to meet him that he wants to start learning design," and he said he wanted to start learning design. And the pastor was like, that not to talk down on the profession, but how long do you think you're going to spend to learn design, right? And how many designers do you know are millionaires, right? So in that case, it was more like, oh, okay, can designers not be millionaires, or can designers not make a lot of profit from what they do? Um, or can designers not be can being a designer or being a graphic designer, or being a product designer, or being a visual designer, can it not be held at the same degree as, every other profession or every other, office that, people take a 9 to 5 or whatnot? And as much as the world is shifting and we're moving into the world of AI and all that, there's still stigmatization around the title graphic designer, product designer, visual designer. Right. People still associate it with that. Oh, okay. This person is, probably in front of a laptop, editing something, or just, moving pixels, or just, helping people edit burial flyers and stuff like that. But what we want to set right here is that, and for people that just joined, our topic is the art and strategy of design. So if you do not have any idea about design at all, if you don't know what graphic, what product, what visual, anything is, please just say hi. So I don't want you to get left out throughout this entire conversation. I would pay attention to you, right? So if you have no idea about what we're speaking about, even if it's like, "Oh, I'm part of this group," or just hi or whatnot, I will take, notes of that. And, occasionally in the call, I'll try to explain a bit more about what I'm saying so you don't feel left out. And don't, feel shy enough to send a message. It's very important because you are here for something to change, something in your own career or to, further your own growth. So yeah, back to our topic, right? Which is a lot of people don't know that, as much as, other professions have what they do, graphic designers also have what they do, right? And I think that is where it gets lost. People find it very difficult to communicate the job or the role of a designer. It's seen that, we are moving pictures, but nobody sees us as strategists. Someone who drives business outcomes, someone who helps a business, you know, t times two their profits. Architecture has it figured out, engineering has it figured out, but design, we're still fighting to be taken seriously at the table. And that changes when you understand the depth of what you actually do. And that's what, tonight is about. Now, why does design get trivialized, right? See, every profession has, perception, but design's perception has like a gap, right? Um, like I said, people think, oh, you're the one in front of a MacBook, you're editing. And the gap is not in the work, sorry, because designers do high impact, incredible things every single day. The gap is in how we communicate, the work that we do and what it is worth. Because in a space where, people associate, an engineer with wealth, nobody can still fathom how I would pay 1 million for something that is um, designed or something that is going to be created. Nobody can fathom it, right? And it's crazy, right? Because there are so many ways that design impacts outcome, right? But the most crazy thing about it is that it goes unnoticed, right? When you look at brands that value design, you would see that they are willing to pay what it's worth for that, right? And it's because those agencies or those teams are able to perfectly communicate what design is worth. And that's the reason why someone can say, oh, nobody's going to pay 1 million for a logo. It's because what exactly are you creating and how are you communicating that this is worth that amount? How does this help me as a business owner make more money? And you would find that in this profession, that's probably the question that people would have in their minds constantly. And the way we fight that is by being so clear about our value that there's no room left for doubt in any room that we enter. So what is design actually, right? And I think that's where we need to start just so that, everyone has context. And I'm not going to say, oh, design is, you building this, that, expecting that you people have knowledge of that to some extent. But there's a lot of things that gets lost in, design education, right? Design is not about making things look good. Design is about making things communicate clearly. Um, a part that people always forget is that graphic design and most of these designs, they all come from, visual communication that, we want to communicate something. That is why we are designing. We want to communicate something visually. Because if someone says, oh, I love you, right? How do you communicate that visually? You probably write it on a pen, on a paper, or take for example, I mean, SMS is not, I will not call that visual communication, but let's say you want to visually communicate that back in this, you probably write that on a letter, you probably put like a heart, put like a love, I love you. Um, that kind of way. You have communicated visually, right? A job of design is to communicate, right? If your design is not solving a problem, you are creating art. And that is fine, but you just need to kind of like know the difference. So design is function, but with intention. Now here's the thing about, questions that I like. I cannot stress this enough, but I want you all to leave here knowing that before you touch any brief, um, particularly before I open Figma, or before I think about colors, or before I think about typography, or before I think about anything relating to design, the first thing I do, or before I think about layouts, is to disturb the client with questions, right? I need to ask the right questions so that I'm able to, you know, use that as a compass to guide me when I'm lost. I always say this, the reason why I love designers get, creative block when working is because they lack enough information at some point, right? You could be working on something and you're like, oh, what am I going to do next? Oh, how do I do this? I don't know what to do. That kind of thing, right? And if you had like a brief or like a lot of questions, you are able to go back to that and say, okay, okay, okay. Let me pick something from here. Let me pick something from this. This person said something about the logo. This person said something about their own experience, right? One of the things I like to do before I even work to any project, I don't like just conversations on, WhatsApp. I prefer that we get on a call and I set a recording, put a recording, and I'm able to hear you speak about your brand. There's a way that leaves so much on the table more than, a text message or, something that you just sent me, via email. Like, oh, okay, this is all that I'm thinking about. Another crazy thing is like a client can just send you a screenshot. Oh, I like this thing. This is what I want to create. Blah, blah, blah. You have run. You have started creating. Before you know it now, you send the first one. Ah, what nonsense is this? Make it pop. Do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. You're lost in that loophole. So the job of a designer is to communicate something specific to someone specific. And to do that well, you have to ask questions, a lot of them. Questions are what keep you from designing in the dark. And usually what happens is that, like I said, is that most designers, they just get really excited. Maybe they've paid you, so you're immediately jumping into designing something beautiful. And then the client says, oh, this isn't what they wanted. And you have to start from scratch. So question for the room. You have received like a brief, and the client says they want like a rebrand, something modern and premium. What are the first three questions? And let me just say one, right? Let's just say one question. What's one question that you would ask before touching anything? So if someone tells you, oh, I want something to be modern and premium, what are the questions that you would say you would ask? Please work with me, work with me, work with me, work with me. So we move fast. Am I lagging? I think maybe some people. I like that question. What makes the existing branding obsolete? That's perfect. That's perfect. I think that's actually a really good question. And if you want to, I mean, Aurea said, if you want to speak, just raise your hand. Um, I would have to find how to give you the mic, but I will figure it out. If you, I'm sure if you request, I'll say it. So yeah, if you want to speak, you can let me know. What makes the existing branding obsolete? Um, I think I want to get into your mind, Khalid, as to why that question. I have answers and I feel like I want to answer it for everyone. But I think it might be good to hear what you were thinking when you said that, and if anyone else has. So Khalid, you can ask for the mic, so I just hear why that question specifically.
All right then, good evening, Shalom. And
Good.
yeah, because I asked that because most people don't know what they want, they just know how they feel. So they could have started off with this idea of I want something medium, modern and premium because well maybe that's how they feel, or because there's this feeling people get. And
Mhm.
I see this based off of experience I have in design. Maybe that's why my mind went to this question first, because it's good to sort of help people like probe into their minds as well and let them know if they really need it or it's just something they feel like. Because you could be making good profits, but you could be in a place where you're not making good profit and you just think, ah, well, it's because of this branding, and there's no special attachment to it, or there's no deep thought to it. So the question is basically to just understand if they have significant issues and the current branding fails in certain criteria. If not, then they might not be need to change it. Or we just catch ourselves in that loop where this person doesn't know what they want, but I'm not trying to fulfill what they want. So yeah, that's why I asked that question.
Great. I mean, you couldn't be more spot on. I mean, I feel like when I reach the second half of this class, I should probably just pass the mic to you to just follow my slides and get through it. Now the reason why I said like that is spot on, right? Is that majority of people, like majority of what fuels this statement and why I like that question is because some people can be very influenced by trends. They can be very influenced by trends and what is happening in the market that it somehow it's them up that they feel like, oh, I need to make a change, right? You look at majority of brands, right? For example, a huge example is Jaguar, right? That did like this whole branding with like pink and stuff like that, and it didn't go really well. People weren't really excited about it, right? You notice that, oh, okay, a lot of people are doing, glass morphism. A lot of people are new brutalism, right? And then you're like, "Ah, mine feels outdated. Mine feels this. Mine feels that," and you want to shift to that, not knowing that there's actually no need to do that. I think there's a brand like I don't know. I think it's Neraland that has used kind of like the same interface for a while. I don't know if that's the name. I'm trying to remember it, but like we used to use it back in the day. There's also one outside the country um, that people used to buy stuff. So if you think really back, you'd see that there are so many brands that they've not never changed. The day they change it, that day that they change it, that's the day everything will collapse, right? Everything will just scatter, right? So it's important to ask questions. Now, if you are not someone that is on this call, right, and you're someone somewhere else that's a designer, because we on this call, we know what to ask. We know how to, approach, any client that asks us something. If you're not someone on this call, you're probably gonna immediately jump in, oh, okay, modern and premium. And then you build up an image of what you feel the person expects is modern and premium, which is going to just eventually he's going to tell you that's not what he wants because there is a disconnect between what a client sees their brand as and what the customers see it as, right? And which is why you never want to, you'd notice that design companies, design companies, it is occasionally happens, but you find that some design companies or some agencies hand over their own design work to another company, right? There's a reason behind it, right? If you are your own client and you would it would be very difficult for you to figure it out because you're going to get into, you know, loophole where you're trying to like, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. But if you're able to kind of like list it out into a brief, it's easy for you to find, oh, okay, this is like a checklist. This ticks this ticks this ticks this. This is going to appeal to our customers because you're not designing for yourself. You're not designing for yourself as the CEO. Which is why I don't always advise that CEO is the one that is influencing, saying we need to rebrand, we need to do this. Why exactly are we doing this? So that's very important. So yeah. Now, moving on, design is language. And right now, majority of designers are only speaking accents, right? And what that means is that something is being lost in translation, right? You might be communicating the right thing to the right person, but the goal for tonight is fluency. That when you design something, people understand it. You don't have to, you know, um, spell it out. When you create something, people understand it immediately. They know what it functions for, they know how to use it, and they know, who to say it to or who needs to see it. Um, so yeah, design communicates. Now, every single element in a design is doing a job. But majority of people don't know that, right? And I particularly do not like that because when you are working on design, everything is not okay. Take for instance, you are doing like a child that you give that is in scrapbook, right? He's putting a lot of things in the page because he's creating art. So he's just moving things and adding things, right? He's not really communicating. I mean, to be honest, what the child is communicating is fun, right? But you see, when you're creating design, you're not just bringing things in, right? From left, from right, from south to north. Everything is doing a job, right? A job that, is assigned to it, right? And to be honest, you might not even be the one to assign it, right? For example, now, um, the background, there's a reason why you choose it. The color, there's a reason why you choose it. So a logo communicates what a brand stands for before anyone reads a word, right? But I think that's we're moving to a place where um, the brand transcends the logo to the point we're moving to that point where people don't want to have to see the logo before they know who this is, which is a nice place to be going to, right? To be honest, where people are like, oh, okay, this is this brand, this is that brand, this is this brand. The moment they see like an ad, like your mind wants to immediately figure out who owns this. So the people that still really need logos are people, brands that are just coming up, brands that you don't have memorability yet. People don't know who you are. And those kind of brands, you're not the one that is supposed to be doing complicated logos. You're not the one that's supposed to be trying to make sure that five things are in your logos. Because at that point, what you want is for people to remember you, right? Your logo, nobody gives too much care about it. As long as it does the three things, which is like, okay, it's simple, it's memorable, and it's distinctive. As long as it functions for those three things, you're good to go. Right now, a layout communicates what matters most on a page. Majority of designers fail to understand this in terms of like their hierarchy. So you see that people, even from like products to brand, and the way they kind of structure things, you need to make sure that whatever you are making the center of attraction, it is what you want the user to face on first, right? So you have to be deliberate about every element. Not because like you're trying to achieve perfection, but because communication is, right? So a color palette must communicate, how someone should feel before they think. I think I was seeing like a burial, or was it, there was like a kind of a birthday post that it just looked like a burial post instead of like a birthday design, right? So those are mistakes that can happen. Now, the reason why I'm even speaking about all this, and I'll get to it, right, is that you might be like a video editor or a product designer and feel like, oh, these things don't matter to me, or this thing I don't see how it helps me. And I'm going to get into why you still need to pay attention to a lot of these things, because with the way the tides are shifting and change is happening, you really do not want to be obsolete in your way of thinking. So the question is never, does this look good? It is, what is this saying and to whom? So my framework, which I'm going to be sharing to you as a gift, but it's not the X that we spoke about in the beginning, is strategy and tactic. Um, and I want you guys to remember this. So the way I see it, strategy is, why and the what. Um, and that is very important because that is where knowledge stems from. You understand that and you understand the problem you're solving. For whom, what needs to be communicated is the thinking that happens before you open any tool. But you see, tactics is the how. Majority of designers understand the how. They know how to open Photoshop, they know how to open Figma, but they don't understand strategy, right? There's a reason behind everything that you're doing. There's a reason behind all the process, and you don't want to be stuck in that executioner mindset where you're like, oh, okay, well, my own job is to, work on designs and stuff like that. I've been in design for probably about 8 years. Um, and can this work for anything design related, including? Yes, definitely, definitely. And I'm going to get there. I've been in design for say 8 years, but my experience that I always say is around 6 years. Now, the reason why, first, just to explain that, is that when you start working in design, when you start learning design, your first 3 years are your formative years, right? They're the years where you build what kind of designer you want to be, so in those particular years, you probably take any type of job. You probably take anything that comes on the table. So you can work for this brand, you can work for this. You do a lot of things you do not like, right? Because at that point, what you are searching for is money. To be honest, what you're searching for is money. So majority of the things that you take on then is that, okay, well, I'm trying to figure out this. And some people's formative years can go into 5, can go into 4, which is okay because it's experience. It helps build you. So those are your personal experience. Now your work experience is now okay from the points where you are able to choose a job that you feel financially matches where you are at, and the things that you're doing are things that you know that you've built and you understand. So if financially it matches, where you think you are as a designer, and the things that you're doing are things that you can showcase in your portfolio as the work that you're proud of, then that is when your work experience begins. Now, this is something that I just added here, but it's just how I see things, right? So in my own case, I've been designing probably even before that, but a lot of those things were just tests, and working and just playing around with tools and understanding it. But like maybe from like 2021, 2020, 2019, around those period was when, design started to make sense deeply to me. Now, when we say strategy and tactics, right, is important to in how you apply this, right? Um, let's say someone tells you that, oh, okay, and let's pick brand design for example, right? Majority of people look at brand design um as image, as what things look like. I look at brand design as how things feel, right? And a big part of how things feel or how people feel from looking at something is storytelling. And you cannot tell a story if you don't know who it is about, right? You cannot properly or accurately tell a story to anyone if you don't know who that story is about. So it's the same for brand design. You cannot preach that, oh, this is what this brand does if you do not understand their journey to where they are. A lot of people, um, you know, see questions like, oh, when people tell you, oh, ask them that, oh, how long have they been in business? You might ask, oh, why am I asking that question? What's it for? Right? How does that help me? Right. And to be honest, in the beginning of my own design career, I was like, a lot of these questions don't help me. I just want to get into the tool. I know what the person thinks, but eventually you'd see a lot of setbacks. And I've had my own share, my own fair share of, negative feedback. I've had my own fair share of jobs that I've lost. I've had my own fair share of I think recently I was posting on my status and I said failure is the best motivation. So a lot of the things that we are going through, right, with design, you are still going to keep seeing it. See, you still see Shege, right? If you really want to do design, please pay attention in this conversation because it's very important, right? But you will still see Shege at some point. Now, and Shege is not that I'm defining Shege, but the reason why I say that is because except if you move to a point where and this is where I'm getting to, and the reason why I'm probably saying Shege is because like I still work with like a lot of friends, or I still work with like a lot of family, or I still work with like a lot of people that emotions is connected to the work that I'm doing. But when you get to a point that you're working with people that value you, and you get to a point where you can properly articulate what you do, you are going to be above the chain. You are going to be above any conversation. You're going to be speaking from a place of experience, from a place of knowledge. But trust me, it doesn't come from me teaching you. It comes from experience. There's nothing it comes from experience. You have to have had something happen to you that would make you like really take this thing seriously. I mean, some people they function really well, like, oh, they can learn from people's mistakes, but some people learn from experience, right? It's important to be able to learn from both, to be honest, because there are situations where you actually don't want to experience that, to be honest. You might not be able to handle it. So the best design work, I've rambled a bit, so back to our work. The best design work lives where both are working together, right? Tactics without strategy is just decoration. Um, Strategy without tactics is just talk. I have perfect examples for this. I used to have a boss that understood strategy. And she can talk, right? We can get on the call, oh, this is what we want to do. This is how this attached to our work. This is what is it? My God, she can speak like you think that she knows exactly. But when we get to the Figma board, when we get to what actually needs to be done, we'll submit it tomorrow. We'll work on it. We are still working on it. We are still You don't want to be that person. So you want to be able to have both. You want to be able to combine strategy with tactics. So your tactics is how you do things, right? And something that I always like to do is in every thing I create, I leave like an Easter egg, right? An Easter egg to me is what separates me from everyone else. An Easter egg is what makes people feel like they need me in a conversation, right? I never feel like, oh, I'm the best in any conversation, in any team that I am. I always feel like I need to constantly, and I think generally, as long as you're still working from Nigeria, as long as you're still working with expatriates and you're working with like professional companies, companies outside the country, that is going to be the case where you always need to prove that you are what something until the point where, you have achieved, self-worth to a very high extent where your name alone commands respect. People attach excellence with your name, right? Majority of the formative years of my career, I was fueled by, oh, okay, I wanted to make a lot of money. I wanted to kind of like change certain things, buy a new laptop, do this, take care of, sibling, black tax, all those things, right? But it got to a point where excellence was what was driving. And I hope that, everyone here is able to get to that point where, majority of the things that you create is excellence that drives it. You really pay attention to it, like, oh, typographical errors. Those are things you do not want to make mistakes with. But yeah, back to our conversation. So I hope everyone has understood what strategy and tactics is. So strategy is, picking the right problem, asking the right questions, telling the right story. Now, when you're looking at the project, right, you need to ask yourself several questions in terms of like how you execute your tactics. And those questions involve, like for branding, is that how is this brand going to be used? How are people going to experience it? You don't want to be designing something for a brand and then you're creating mock-up for something that they're not even going to be using. I don't understand where that's coming from, right? You need to look at 5 years from now, how the brand evolves and what are the things that they're going to see, right? That is what helps you build an experience in, your branding that you're doing. Majority of people look at branding as just, oh, I'm creating mock-ups, or oh, I'm just, making colors and putting a lot of things together. But you need to ask a lot of questions. Like, okay, 3 years from now, where do you see this brand? 4 years from now, like, how do you expect this brand to have evolved, right? One of the most difficult thing in branding is ensuring that it transcends time, that it lasts. It is difficult, right? I think only a few brands have been able to stay true to what they are for the longest period. Almost every brand at some point will rebrand until they kind of reach that point where that is the core of who they are. So at most, the branding can probably last, say 6 to 10 years in terms of like, oh, okay, consistency and people, being able to kind of like relate to it. So now visual brand and product, one conversation. Visual design is how it looks and feel. Um, Brand design is what it communicates and stands for. Product design is how it behaves and solves problem. So these are not just three separate roads, they overlap constantly, right? And this is very important and it's something I feel strongly about, especially right now with how fast the design industry is changing. You don't want to box yourself into one discipline. And I know that might scare a lot of people, and I understand why some people specialize. And I'm not saying don't specialize. What I'm saying is that know enough about the other disciplines to hold a conversation in their language, right? Because here's what happens in real projects, right? The brand designer can make, visual decisions that break the product experience. The product designer makes, UX decision. That one will scatter brand identity. The visual designer can create assets, that don't align with what, the products communicate. And it will all fall apart if the three lanes don't talk to each other. That is where the topic collaboration comes from, right? That is where a lot of people are saying, oh, collaboration in design, how do you guys, if you see two people that were able to work together to create something, they are both incredibly talented. Because it takes two talented people to be able to come together and create something that is exceptional. Because eventually, relationship is a very difficult thing. Even people that are dating, they still have arguments, right? People that have been dating, even people that are married, still have like a lot of arguments. So imagine that you're working on a project and you have no, relationship or you don't understand how to collaborate. It's going to end in like, oh, this is where I'm leaving it. This is all I can do, right? I'm not going to work on this again. So you don't need 70% mastery in all three, but you need to know enough to speak each other's language. One of the things that people, most of the teams that I join, or most of the places I work with, is you would definitely not catch me, slacking. Even in a call where, we're talking about something and it's just thrown at me. Um, I can tell you on the call that, okay, give me a moment to think about it. And then I'll unmute it and answer. I don't like being pressured into doing something, right? Because as a designer, you find that a lot, right? Where people say, oh, okay, can you quickly whip up something? Can you quickly design something? I'm like, give me a moment, let me think about it, and then we'll start working on it. So even if it's like 10 minutes, I need to sit a bit and allow the thing to just process in my mind and allow things to form, right? Before I jump into, okay, let's start working on something, right? And another story about like how all these things are very important and being able to talk about this is that that's what makes you become a lead in a team. That's what makes you lead teams, lead organization. That's what makes people say, okay, this person understands strategy more than just design. You really do not just want to be an executioner, and I cannot overemphasize it. So I think everyone understands this slide. I'm gonna move. And then, dun dun dun, AI will take your job. It will take it. Accept it now. Take it with your full heart, right? Let's go back. Take it with your full heart. Let it sit. Let it rest. Be terrified. Be scared before we move to the next slide, obviously. But AI will take your job. Now, um, is anybody worried about that? AI will take your job, to be honest. Um, but, but, the most important thing is that it will create a bigger one. Um, there was a struggle when, back in the days when people were creating art, they were, drawing on pen and paper, like they were painting, right? And then there was a point where digital art came, and there was like a struggle that yours is not as valuable as me who created mine on paper or who drew or who did the painting art physically, right? Yours is not as valuable, right? And then you see a lot of people that are using digital art now, creating things, and they will look at the people that are now starting to use AI now and still talk down on them, right? I'm not saying, right, don't speak like don't speak. I mean, obviously, don't speak bad about using AI, but I'm not saying AI doesn't have its disadvantage, but it's important to know that things are always the change is constant, right? And you need to understand how each plays a part in whatever your profession is, right? As much as people are creating digital art right now, right, drawing on a tablet, um, people are still buying real art that is created on pen and paper. There's still value for it. You see, you that you're not good, you just forget it. Just if you're not good at what you do, just forget it. You will be replaced. So seek excellence, right? Seek excellence in whatever you do, right? And let that drive you. Never be contented with mediocre work, right? Never sit and say, okay, I think this is okay. Majority of the time when I was like in uni, right, we'll be given like a task to work on like a presentation where we are going to speak, and like everybody will just do it like normally, right? They'll just create their slides. Okay, simple stuff. And then I would go all out with my slide. The text will fly in, the text will flip, the text will enter the screen. Um, Everybody were just I say creative Boju. And what that means is that you used to do too much, right? They're always like, okay, why are you always doing all these things? It's not necessary. But you see, the difference between that is that as much as all these things are moving in the slide, I know how to explain it, right? So it's not that while it's moving, I'm now just watching it and all of us are watching it, right? You need to be able to back a lot of that with knowledge, right? So eventually it will feel like, oh, okay, he's because he's doing this like, but it's also because I know what I'm talking about, right? I just always like to make sure that there's a combination between it looking good and it functioning properly. And if you want to be a different type of designer, that is the designer you should be, where you are able to combine perfectly functionality and aesthetics. If you're able to do that perfectly, forget every conversation about AI. Let them be having it. Your own job is safe, right? Because you see, the difference between you and AI is that AI is not going to be able to combine functionality and aesthetics the same way that you would. It's not going to be able to reinvent itself to come up with like a new idea like the way you would, right? And the way you are able to come up with new ideas is by asking questions. So a lot of our journey up until here is to help you be a different version of someone that cannot be easily replaced, but with AI. So are you less scared now? Can't laugh at yourself. Um, but yes, when I say like you take a job you create a big one, I'm also going to show like an example of like a project that I worked with AI with to execute some of the things, and I'll show you. I personally I hate AI, to be honest. Um, and I'm saying that for some people here that also feel that way, right? I don't like it. But it's the same way like when you were in secondary school, you had some subjects that you didn't necessarily like. But what helps you to be able to still do this is the end goal. You know that, okay, if I'm able to get a C in this, right, I'm able to fulfill the bigger dream that I want to achieve for my own career, right? It's the same with AI, right? You might not enjoy using it, you might not enjoy the fact that it is here, but you need to still know that, okay, I still need to know it so that I'm able to get to the end goal of what I want to achieve for my career, right? And that just helps you to still be relevant. That is what helps you to still stay true to whatever you're creating. You see that some people that can create on pen and that can draw can now use digital, illustrations, can now use tablets to draw, right? What's now stopping them from being able to still be able to use AI to now help elevate it? It's the same thing for someone who is like creating with Photoshop. As much as you could create with Photoshop, still be able to use AI. A time will come where someone will probably say, "Oh, I don't want this to be done with AI." You still need to be able to remember that. There was a point where I was working on a project, and that's when I knew that AI is influencing me a lot. And I was working on a video and I forgot that we still there's something called stock footage, right? That I can still go and download stock footage and stock pictures. I was just trying to generate or and I forgot that I could actually just go and search for a picture and download. So because the client didn't provide pictures, I was like, okay, my next thing, since we don't have a library of pictures from the client, the next solution would be to just generate images. I had forgotten that, oh, okay, back then we used to download, stock images and use that. So it's important to still, understand the journey to where we are when it comes to design, and how you are going to be able to elevate from there. Um, Yeah, I mean, something a lot of people ask me, why do I stay relevant with like a lot of the AI tools? Because on this call, if I say I want to show you all the AI tools I use, is plenty. We will not be able to go through it. But I have two favorite ones, and those are the ones that I'm going to be showing you guys. So Flow and Weavy. Thumbs down if you've never heard of these tools. Flow and Weavy. Thumbs down if you've never heard of the two. So Flow and Weavy are tools that I use particularly in my own design flow. And I'm going to be showing it probably like close to the end of the call. Um, okay, okay. The flow I'm talking about is not FLO, it's FLOW. Hmm. Just let me just make that clear. Hmm. So um, okay. Yeah, it's formerly Whisk. Is yeah, it is. It is, to be honest. I don't think Whisk still functions. So yeah, thank you, Tolani. Then Weavy is like a node-based process. Weavy has all the AI tools in one, right? And that's why I like it. You are able to do everything in one tool, but a lot of people find it scary. Hopefully, I'm able to make it easy for you guys to use and enjoy. The skill is learning how to direct the still precisely, blah, blah, blah. Enough. Move to next. So one question for the room again. You're using an AI tool to generate images. Yeah, okay, someone said Weave is for Figma. No, yeah, I mean Figma just bought Weavy. Um, they just bought them, they just acquired them. But usually Weavy used to exist on its own, but Weavy just Figma just bought it. So now they've kind of like integrated it into Figma. But it still functions like outsource. Yeah. So you're using an AI tool to generate images for a client campaign or for something. Remove the word client campaign. You're using AI to generate images or something, but your outputs keep coming back the same. It's still showing you five fingers, six fingers, or it's still showing you something that is wrong. Like, let's move it back to like something that has more story or something that has more strategy. Let's say you're trying to create, you can't really come up with something, but you still keep getting the same output. What and you don't feel like they're on brand, or they don't even match with the brand at all. What do you do differently, right, in that particular case to be able to get better results from the AI tool? How do you make sure that, okay, you are not stuck in the loop of like getting, the same results? Now, this can apply to anywhere where you are kind of like using AI. So some people that don't use AI might not. Some people might say, oh, I'll try a different tool, maybe. Um, does anyone else have any answer? Simeon, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Work on your prompt. Bailey's bed as well. Exactly. Anyone else want to answer? One more person. Okay. Amazing, amazing. Yeah, maybe subscribe to Prosha. It might be the reason why they are giving you the same thing. Um, I was going to say something. Yes. Does anyone know what JSON prompts are? So I'm going to type it JSON prompts. Okay. You can probably search it online right now, to be honest. You can search it, but I would explain it to you all as we go on. So that is how majority of people are able to achieve. I just typed it. You see JSON, JSON prompts. That is how a lot of people are able to separate to get consistent outputs, right, from something, right? JSON prompt is like it looks like code, right? But it's not. It's just markdown of like, instructions that you give to the AI to be able to help it create stuff, right? And the beautiful thing about JSON prompts is that you can backspace something and replace it with another to be able to get a different output, but every other thing else still stays the same, right? Now, back to our question, right? Like everyone else has said, right? Go back to the prompt, right? Yes, it's like master prompting. Now, you need to, one reason why you might be getting things that don't feel exactly the same is also because maybe the AI doesn't know much about the brand, right? Um, it doesn't have enough information, right, to be able to create what you're trying to help use it to create. Um, Trending versus timeless. I think was it Khalid? I think we already spoke about this a bit because a trend tells you what people find appealing right now. They are useful signals, but they are not rules. So chasing trends without understanding why they work means that you are always 3 months behind. All this we've spoken about. And then, I mean, it's because people are paying attention. That's why I've already talked about a lot of things that I've already written. So you're not just a maker, you are a decision maker, right? And that's where you want to be. I used to have, I used to work in a company that I left eventually, right? And one of the things that one of the things I always like to do when I join a company newly is to make sure that I speak with stakeholders in some way or the other, right? So if I just join a company, right, and I've not worked with majority of the companies I've worked with are like international companies, like maybe UK, US, Canada and stuff like that. I think it was when I first started designs that I was working with like a couple of Nigerian companies. But after I worked with like one international company, I didn't really look back again on like Nigerian companies. And I will explain why. I mean, but yes, one of the things I like to do about like when you join a company, and to be honest, majority of the thing I always try to do also with like friends of mine is to also help them secure, maybe like a job with like a foreign company where their work is valued more, like to a better extent. I think a friend of mine as well just got like another job recently, it was yesterday or so. Um, and we would kind of like all get together, do like interview, solve the assessment and stuff like that together. So for some people that I feel like are serious, maybe before the end of this call, I will share my contact. But yes, I have like places that I apply to jobs. I have um processes that I feel like are the best way to kind of like submit, your CV, how you should go about, your portfolio, how you should make sure that it's structured, how you should make sure that you can arrange your CV. Because a lot of these things that we're talking, the most important thing people also want is how they can get a job. Just wanted to add that day. Um, so you're not just a maker, you're a decision maker. You don't want to be in a company and throughout the call, you are muted. You didn't say anything. You didn't contribute. It's like you're a ghost. It's like you're a fly on the wall. That's a terrible way to live, right? To just be a fly on the wall of every call that you go to. You say nothing. Nobody hears your voice once. You don't communicate at all, right? You don't leave a lasting impression in a room where you are quiet. It's not possible. There's no way you do it. People cannot remember you if you are quiet. It's better to be quiet for the most part, but when you speak, there's wisdom in it. People then value, they look at you differently, right? They read you to some extent. But to now say that, oh, throughout the call, you're not going to see anything, you're just going to be allowing people speak for you. They will say, oh, okay, no, 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 I think his network is bad. You will know, you will keep quiet, you will not say anything. Oh, okay, no, no, no. This is what we think. You say you keep quiet, you allow them to join you with the pack. They are just going, 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 going. I know, Shemi, I pity you. Before you know it, after 1 month, you see termination, they have sacked you. You'll be asking why? Why they sack me? Why am I out of job? Because nobody knows who you are and the value you bring. So do not just be a maker, do not just be someone who's designing and who is just submitting creatives and stuff like that. Be a decision maker. When I first started with companies, I don't care about like, oh, what their dashboard looks like, what's happening on the back end, how they're making. My own is once you have given me the brief, I will submit the design. You'll be impressed. But you see the other things, I will not ask. I will not ask questions. Don't do that. Um, so how you talk about your design decisions? Where are my people that are always commenting? You people have gone quiet on me. Elizabeth, Ayobami, Khalid, are you still here? Or you have gone to eat lunch, dinner, sorry. Who else do I know that I've not heard from? Yeah, I think Abisola and some other people. Oh, okay, this is your dinner, no wahala. It is well. So when you explain why, sorry, when you explain why you made a choice, stakeholders stop second guessing and start trusting. So, um, yes. So when you say you made a choice, you made a decision or something like that, if you're not able to explain it, nobody knows, nobody understands it, right? So you need to be able to explain your why behind every design decision that you made, right? That's why I say that everything you add on a design should mean something. Because imagine if you put like a you're working on a design, for example, and it's a flyer for like a food business. And then because it's like a food business, you've seen a lot of people use it like this pattern of leaves, Leaf, 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 leaf. You now put leaf in your own design so that, oh, people are using leaf, leaf, leaf. So you put it. The client now asks, okay, why is this leaf, leaf, leaf there? You say, it's because it's because that's what is good. Why? You have no reason behind it. No reason behind it. You just put it because everybody are putting leaf, 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 leaf. Or yeah, those kind of people that okay, once they finish design, they'll just blow it. You just blow it. Why? You don't have any reason. You just add it there. Or you see, okay, people like to do thank you, lens flare, you see, you add it. Majority of those things, there is a reason why, oh, like we said, a lot of the things that you create have a message that they speak. When you're the glass effect, thank you. There are some people that when you're working on a design for a fashion brand, right? Um, I can't see why you would have like a lens flare there. I don't see why I need a lens flare on my food. Explain it to me. Explain. I don't see why I need lens flare on my food, right? The most important thing is the color, the text, like just how the image looks, right? So everything that you use on your design, let it have a deeper meaning, right? Let it have like a deeper meaning as to why it is there. Um, and sometimes you can take another strategy I'll teach you is that when you take a template, right? The first thing you should not do, or what you should not do is take everything out. You know, that's what some people do. Once they get a template, they're like, oh, okay, let me remove this, remove this, remove this, remove this. I challenge you that the first thing you should do is look at it, study the design that you took as a template, and then every element there, think about the brand that you're going to use it to create something for, and try to see, okay, what for this brand would be good to place here to replace this, right? Don't just leave everything like that. Ask yourself that, okay, everything on this design as is, right? What are the things that if I use, to create this as it is for this brand, that it would still work, right? And the reason why I'm asking is that I sent like a design something to okay, this is like a template I want you to use, right? And he just left everything there exactly as is, right? To me, what I challenge myself is that okay, if I see that so for example, let's use this slide as an example. Maybe when I got this slide, there is like a pattern in the background that is too much. But because it's a futuristic design, that is why they have that kind of lines and digital lines, right? In my own head, I'm like, okay, what am I designing for? How can I make sure that the background feels that way for what I'm designing for? I'm designing about something about art, something about strategy. My own head will now come, okay, I need to use like a paper kind of feel in terms of like the background. I need to make sure that it feels like learning, right? I don't want like a sharp background that people immediately see and they are more interested in the background than the words that are on the creative, right? And what this does to you is that it makes you ask the client more questions. You're like, okay, do you have a tagline? For example, let's say you get a template and you see that, okay, there's something here, right? And then you say, oh, you don't have that text. Next thing you think of, you should start thinking for the brand that, okay, do you guys have a tagline? I think you should put a tagline on this design. I think that would fit well with this. Sometimes I work on a design and I'm like, something is missing here on this space here of this design. You go and find what we should put here because do you have an image? Do you have this? Do you have that? I ask those questions because in my head, it needs to complete, right? So I don't just take the template and just delete a lot of the things because there's a reason behind whoever created that template, decision behind everything, right? So you look at it and then you're like, okay, this particular thing, I think you need to have an image here. I think you need to have like an illustration here. I think you need to have your tagline here, or I think you need to things that pertain to like whatever that design is supposed to solve. So yeah, don't be my sister. My sister is also a designer. I thought design and she does illustration. Um, and one thing I've noticed about it is most of the colors in our illustration is red because it's her favorite color. Red is everywhere. Red is just everywhere in our design because she likes the color. Do you understand? So you can be like kind of person, you're choosing color because you like it. You're just choosing that particular thing. But you need to choose color because it communicates, something, it communicates trust to a specific audience. And when you're simplifying the layout, you don't want to just simplify it because you want to kind of like reduce a lot of things. You want to choose minimalism. You need to simplify it because okay, research shows that okay, users make faster decisions with less visual noise. Let there be facts. Another thing that sets you apart is that when you're explaining this thing on the call and you're like, oh, okay, the reason why I took this out is because this is what the stats say when it comes to stuff like this. And that's just it. They can't challenge you. But if you say something like, oh, um, I think it's okay there now. Let's leave it there. Nobody will take it seriously. So when you're working on design, you're like, okay, what are your competitors doing, right? These are what they're doing. You cannot choose that same color because your competitors are using that. You're not going to stand out. Once you tell them like that, they're like, you're going to fall into like a loophole of like, everybody is doing the same thing. Nobody's going to be able to recognize your brand. I still feel like that's just how it should be. One of the reasons why I like um how Piggyvest and Cowrie Wise have gone about like their branding is that as much as both of them are blue, there's like distinction in how they are represented, right? When you think of Cowrie Wise, you think of like their illustrations, you think of their style, you think of everything. But you see, one thing that you think of when you think of Piggyvest, they also have like Israel. There's someone that also does illustration. But I think most people associate um consistency and functionality with Piggyvest more than their branding. One second. So I think people associate ease with Piggyvest. Okay, or raise your hand. We have about 3 more slides left. Okay, maybe. Can you hear me? Can you guys still hear me? Okay, okay. I thought Aurel was saying maybe you guys couldn't hear me. Where was I? Okay. Yes, Blue with Trust. Okay, good. You guys are still with me. Good. How you talk about decisions? Yes, so let there be a reason why you made, every decision in your design. And let that kind of like be, if it's facts, what are those facts saying? And use that to defend your work. Um, instead of, and I think that's also what separates another thing that to just debate is that we as designers, we can get very emotionally attached to the things that we create. But you see, facts and information is what helps us to stay detached, right? Because, oh, okay, I really like red, right? But you can't think of a way to explain why you chose red. There's going to be a way that you can explain it. What you're just not going to do is say is because I think red works. You need to kind of say, okay, this is what it does, this is what it works. And then people will trust you more. Okay. So I think we are at the end. We're going to do the case studies now. Before we go on to the case study, um, does anyone have any question? But let's just go into the case study first. How are we feeling? How's everyone feeling? Do you feel overwhelmed, or have you gained something from this conversation so far? Let's see. So, hey, since it's at the beginning, a little choked. Emma Binu, apologize. Ask questions so that I can explain. If you have questions, ask. Um, so we're going to do I'm going to share part of my portfolio with you guys, and we're going to use that as a case study before we come back to the slide. And then I have a game that we're going to play at the end. That is the X that I put in the beginning of the slide. So for us that we are still here, some people would have left maybe to go and do something. You are not going to be part of that. But I have a game that we're going to play, which is like just for us to um enjoy. Yeah. Someone said they have had a question, so um, 1 second. Okay, let me see who said they had a question. Tolani, what is your question before we go into the case study? Tolani, ìwọ ni mò ń pè. Are you requesting? I can't see. Okay, maybe I shy. Or Tolani left the call. Can't see if she's. Well, I think some people are a bit behind in terms of like the network. Because I do see some responses come maybe like some minutes behind. Khalid, do you have any question? Okay, Tolani said network. Khalid, any question from you? Um, who else? Hmm. All right, we'll just move since no one has any question for now. So, Poco. So, now, so this was like a it was a it was a combination of branding, rebrand. And this is interesting because I was the one who did the branding before. And then she came back and then she wanted to do a rebrand and she came back to me to do the rebrand. I mean, and that's a very interesting take because how are you able to create like branding for me, right? And I am coming for a rebrand and I'm still coming to you, right? It's to show that you can create something, right? And it can become obsolete, right? But it is not that you don't know what you're doing because the person understood the process you did to come up with that. It wasn't that, oh, you just created something. You asked a lot of questions, you had a lot of process before that result, right? So the person understands that, okay, if I explain, um, if I ask a lot of questions, right? Um, if I say all that I need for this new rebrand, this person will get it. This person will know what needs to change in my brand. And also because it is you as a client that feels like a brand needs to change, right? And what she did was that she came to me and she asked, like, okay, I think we need to change brand. I think we need to shift, right? And then I was like, okay, this is what I think can work. And I worked on some logos and stuff like that for her, some samples, and I sent it to her. I have a creative studio, like a design agency, and I have a couple of designers that work with me. So the first thing I did was to give them to work on. See, let me tell you, all of them are still learning, sha, but we'll get there. One of the things that I don't like when it comes to presentation for a client is I think presentation is everything. You can you can create something that is very simple, but the way you present it, people would feel like it is gold, right? You cannot share anything that you create without allowing the person to experience it, which is why I don't like when people work on like I want to believe that except a really good logo, right? Most logos that you create, there needs to be some sort of animation or some sort of motion or some sort of thing that just makes them see it, especially if there's like a bigger story to it, right? But if it's like just a really simple logo, so it depends on the client's budget. But I'm going to go straight into this. Now, the name of the brand is Poco, right? And they're a creative agency in Spain, right? And when she came to me, the meaning of the brand Poco is little, right? Um, and she has this, oh, we are the little guy that helps big brands, make a statement, or the little guy that helps big brands grow, or the little agency or the little brand that, helps them, see or create something great, basically, right? And when I was working on the logo, I wanted it to be typography because um my thoughts to it was that you when you think Poco, right, which is little, you don't really need another logo because the name is just four letters. You don't really need another logo that you want people to remember and then forget the name, right? And that's another thing you need to kind of like think about, right? If you have the text Poco sitting down, right, and you put like another logo, if the logo is too strong, people would not be able to remember the name Poco. So, and when I want people to think about it, I want them to be saying, oh, Poco, 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 Poco. I don't want them to be saying, oh, okay, the brand that has this. Like the name is a strong point here, is a strong selling point. And every time you have like a logo that, especially because it's like a creative agency, where majority of what they do is communicate, right? The brand needs to feel like it's doing a good job of communicating, right? Like they know how to communicate. So when I worked on the logo, it was like, okay, I wanted Poco. And then after I did it, I was like, oh, okay, I can see two eyes in the eye, right? In the like two, like an eye there with the Poco, right? Okay, um, someone's eye looking at something. Maybe that is the little guy in their logo, right? And it's kind of like freezed. In my head, I was like, I wanted to create a character in their logo to the point where, okay, the logo can come alive, right? And I was like, okay, the O, one small O, one big O, right? To represent like okay, the eyes. And then I was like, okay, that can then form for a visual device for how their eyes all look like, right? If you see for the characters, you'll see, okay, they all have like that small eye, big eye kind of feel, small eye, big eye kind of feel, small eye, big eye kind of feel, small eye, big eye kind of feel. So I replicated that across all the illustrations that were supposed to represent all, the characters and the brands and who they are, right? So it's important that you ask a lot of questions, right? If they say, okay, little guy, then you know that okay, this is how they want to be seen, right? And the problem they want to solve. So to the whole branding, right? It was like, okay, because of the fact that they're in Spain, right? One of the things that I was like, okay, how would they speak to other people in that are not Spanish, right? So then I was like, okay, hola, hi, hello, ciao, different languages because they are not restricted to one particular place. They're not restricted to speak one particular language. They might be born in Spain, they might be from Spain, but they don't serve only Spain, right? So it had to reflect like, okay, even from the moment you enter the brand, right, you know that, okay, this brand is intentional in terms of like how they communicate. So there could be places where you could then now replace or with their circle with how that looks like. That is what separates it. And then you can then create like patterns with it, right? And then okay, I was like, okay, that would be the icon. So and then um and then we already established that the logo, right, it has like a grunge feel. Now, the reason why the logo has that edgy feel, right? You can see the way the form is, right? It looks like, okay, this thing was crafted, was hand thought, right? It's because majority of the things that we create as, a design agency is well framed, is hand created. We are not a brand that, okay, is going to use AI and forget that we have talked about AI, but storytelling is everything, right? So we're not a brand that is going to like immediately jump to AI to say, okay, we want to create something. We're a brand that is intentional about the things that we create. So then that had to reflect in the illustration style. So from the elements, all the elements needed to look organic, right? Okay, this is this particular element, this is this particular shape, this is how it looks. They all needed to have that particular feel in how they look. And then, okay, how does that now reflect in like, okay, images and stuff like that? How do you use that as container for images? You could then layer it together and stuff like that. And then I think we now did, characters for each of the member of their teams. So if you see here, right, each member of their team, so maybe this is like the person responsible for content, this person responsible for but the reason why another thing is these animations may not tell you exactly what their profession is, but it was a amalgamation of their personality with what they do in the company. So there's going to obviously be that disconnect in the fact that, okay, this is not exactly telling me, oh, this is what this person does in the company, because you don't want the person to be known exactly by that. You want to be known by a person. So you can see this one that is eating snacks on Jenny. He likes to have snacks. You can see this one that is like reading like this. This is like, I think the CEO. You can see this person that is like, he's killing like a fly that is flying up and down. He doesn't like disturbance. He likes like to take things in, to calm down, to think, right? So those are things that you are going to be able, if you don't ask all those questions, you're not going to be able to create that in your branding. And yeah, there's a bunch of other things I wish I could. And then for the website as well, Unlock Growth Together, we're like, okay, you and I were working together, the animation, and then even like the website. So even for the Poco team, one of the Poco team side, right, you would see, oh, okay, this person's on another staircase, this person on another thing. We are like living together and cooking something up for you. I think, yeah, so that's like the first case study for how visual design, brand design, and product design all come together, right? Each part are very important, and if they don't talk, you're not going to be able to achieve the synergy that is important. Um, I don't want to share another one, so we're just going to go to the next process. Does anyone have any question for this before we move to using AI? So this is for brand, visual, products, how they kind of like amalgamate and form something. Hmm, no one is asking question. No one is asking. All right, then we're going to, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I think someone, oh, promise. Okay, 1 second. How do you deal with what I designed versus what the dev did? How do you tell the developer guy you fucked up professionally? Hmm. Hmm. Um, My answer to that would be work with professional people, to be honest. But I'm gonna answer is like, like, because there are going to be things that you create that the developer guy is not going to be able to execute. But you need to be able to ask him questions, right? I feel like developers have this um the way Man U fans can hit Arsenal fans, or like a particular team can just, it's just inherited hit. It's just hit that was inherited. It's not that it was just passed down, right? To be honest, it was just passed down, passed down, passed down. We hate these people, let's just hate them. I'm not saying that developers hate the designers, but there's this friction with the fact that when you bring something to the developer, it's like you probably just designed this only thinking about design, right? You didn't think about the execution part of it, right? It's important to be able to let him know that, okay, there's empathy that you feel for whatever he's creating. And however he goes about it, you trust that he's doing, the best work, but this is what you've kind of like created, and this solves this particular problem that the client has, or this solves this particular problem that users are going to experience, which is why you're leaning towards that, right? How can we find, the middle ground to be able to achieve both functionality and aesthetics at the same time? You need to be able to help him see the reason behind yours, and you also need to let him know that you see the reason behind his, right? The only problem is if he cannot execute it. That is the only problem. But as long as he can execute it, um, then you would definitely find a way to be able to explain that to him that, oh, okay, this particular thing that we've created, this particular thing that we've worked on, it's not what I had in mind, right? So communication and, again, tying it to facts and, reason behind every of your decision. You are not just designing, because you want to make things look good, which is like what we said in the beginning, right? If there's a reason behind it, then he would understand. But if there's none, then it will feel like you're challenging him. So when you bring fact and bring something, it won't feel like you're defending that, oh, okay, this is how I designed it, this is how I did this. When you bring stats, it then makes it feel like, okay, no, this person is coming from a more logical angle, not emotionally driven. How do you come up with your process and the case study? What are the questions to be asked? To what extent? And as a product designer, do I need to learn product design? I don't know if you're new, but like I think we spoke about this last question. You don't need to learn brand design entirely, but you need to be able to speak the language, right? You need to be able to know what exactly functions, how they communicate, what is most important, how brand design overlaps with product design, the parts that it comes in as. Now, one of the things we said before was that what happens in the real life application is that the visual designer can create something that doesn't align with what the product designer sees, like Promise asked. The brand designer can create something that doesn't align with, or the visual designer can create assets that don't align with the product. The UI designer can create something that doesn't align with what the branding should look like, right? But to be able to speak in that particular conversation, you need to understand each party at least a minimum of like 40%. You need to know what is happening with them. You need to know what they're about. You need to know what exactly it means to apply that into what you're creating. Yeah. So yeah, how do you come up with your process and the case study? You need to document your process as you're working on it. You cannot create a case study project um, without full documentation, right? So, for example, most people create the case study, after, and they're trying to like, oh, okay, get this, get this, get this. But I always say that when you want to work on like your case study that you want to put out, when you're working on a process, document as much as you can, right? In terms of like your process that you used to get there. It doesn't need to be fully fleshed. It doesn't need to be this. But as you're working on the project, oh, I was able to do this, do this, this. I was able to do this. It's going to be able to help you to showcase it better, like in your case study. It's going to be able to help everything feel like, oh, cohesive. And how do I come? My process is um my process is different from many people. And the reason why is you can, and I would key into what a lot of designers do, right? And validate it. You know how when they give you a brief, you probably not work on it the first day, you probably not work on it the second day. You maybe the third day, that time, yeah, now that's when you now start working on it. That's kind of how I work. But you see, the difference between what I do is that the moment I receive a brief, I don't jump in. For like 2 days or 3 days, I would just soak it in, right? Everything that I see around me, everything that I experience, I'm trying to see how the brand can come alive in that, right? So sometimes I might just, like, it can just come to me like, okay, maybe I'm working on something else. And I'm like, okay, this would be good for the brand. Sometimes I can just be scrolling through Pinterest, right? And I don't let my mind know that I'm currently working on that brand. That's my own trick, right? Because the moment you feel like, okay, I want to work on the logo for this right now, right? You are just going to be, it's going to feel like there's a lot of pressure, right? But if you have it in your subconscious, oh, okay, you need to work on a logo for, or you need to work on this for this brand. Everything that you see, the mind has a way of bringing things that are going to help you one way or the other. You're going to pick from something. There's no new idea. And majority of the ideas that we feel are new are things that we've gotten from different other niches or different other fields, right? But it always feels like, okay, this is a new idea that I thought of. But it can come from carpentry. It can come from, something that you've seen on the road or something like that, right? So it's very important that when you're working on something, don't allow the pressure of like, oh, okay, you need to send this thing in to now commit you to now, okay, I need to rush this, I need to do this. Always try to take your time to sketch up something, to create something first. For product designers, make sure you you draw some sketches of what it's going to look like first before you jump into it. For brand designers, write a couple of things about what you think the brand is supposed to solve. Questions that are very important in brand design is who is it for? Who's your target audience? Like that you need this brand for. Um, and like I said, one of the things I prefer to do, rather than just ask like 10 questions because you can overload the client, is that I prefer to allow the client just rant. So I try to ask questions that can trigger them to just rant and just talk about their brand and just explain to me that, okay, this is what I feel about my brand. It helps me to be able to have so many things to sieve out and just use that to influence it. I don't ask things like, what color do you want? No, I don't ask things like, and the reason why I don't ask, okay, what color do you want for this brand is because it doesn't really help me. The colors I will ask, the question I'll ask is, what are the colors that you completely do not think work for your brand? Now, I would then now look at it, okay, what are a huge part is, okay, who are your competitors, right? Your major competitors. Which brands do you think are really doing good work right now in terms of like aesthetic, in terms of visual, in terms of like branding, the brands that you look up to and you feel like, okay, these brands are up there, right? Which brand in 5 years, from now, did you see as where you want your brand to be in terms of like their messaging, in terms of like the content they're putting out, in terms of like their branding overall? Um, some people ask questions like, okay, if your brand is an animal, what will it be? I don't think that helps you in any way. Um, yeah, I can send like a couple of questions. I think I have like a, a list somewhere. But yeah, I think that is it. Yes, as a product designer, you do not need to learn brand design, but you need to understand it. Um, yeah, I think that is it. So I'm going to share. Okay, what if the brand is the biggest in their field? Does that now mean that the brand already has branding? Or does that just mean that they don't necessarily have branding, but they already solve a big problem and people already trust them? Because there are some brands that they don't have branding, but they are already big. And that's another thing that kind of like almost defeats the process of or the conversation of, oh, you need a brand designer. Is the fact that if you really have a good product, sometimes it doesn't really matter the aesthetics. Have you noticed that? Sometimes it doesn't necessarily matter that, oh, okay, this thing is designed, right? As long as you really have a good product, that is sufficient, right? Eventually, right, you can then come back to it, right? But you see, the thing people miss there is that as much as, and that's because people attach branding to visual. Immediately your mind is thinking of branding as colors and stuff like that. But see, that brand that is already big, there's a branding to them. It could be that people know them that their customer support is excellent. People know them that their product is, amazing. People know them that, okay, that to some extent is a huge part of their brand. The day that that stops and that they are no longer consistent with that, everything else collapses, right? So that's kind of like another thing, right? Some brands are really, really big, but they don't have fancy colors. They don't have all those things. What people just know is that they work, right? You can count on them 24/7, they are going to deliver, right? That is what they've chosen to represent who they are. The day they choose to add color to it, it is only going to up them by a mile, right? And put them like, because one of the things that I do, right? Every time I'm trying to book a flight, I always book Green Africa and they always disappoint me. But the reason why I used to book Green Africa is because I like their branding, right? And I like the way they look, right? But they can be very, very terrible sometimes in terms of like flights and just canceling a flight or a flight and just moving it to an entirely different day. But I really like you can use branding to move me and influence me. Sometimes I can just see like a product on a shelf that I really think is nice and I can buy it just because of the branding or because of how it looks. So I'm one of that few percentage of people that branding hugely influences because I'm like, okay, what's the thought process behind this? What's the thinking behind this? But if a brand is the biggest in their field, right, when you're asking them questions, the question should be more about why, right? Why exactly do you feel like you need branding at this point? What exactly do you expect this branding to solve? And exactly again, just why, right? Because if they have competitors, right? And I think the best parts that you need to look at when you're trying to like now adapt that is mediums, right? So maybe they want to host an event. That is the best part to show their branding. And I think that's another thing, right? That most of these brands, I used to work with a branding, they don't really have solid branding, but they have a product that people already trust. And they are the biggest in their field, they're the biggest in their market. Up to now, they refuse to accept branding. You know, guys, you want every time. If you do the branding, they will just leave it. They will not just. You cannot you cannot force them. If the CEOs or stakeholders do not value branding, there's really nothing you can do. Right? There's nothing you can do. One of the things I've noticed is that if you look at brands like Pepsi, Coca-Cola, it can take 10 years for only the fonts to change in their logo. Check it out. Like go and look at Pepsi, their logo. Like after like the thing that may change in that their logo might just be the font. Believe you me, it's not as if someone didn't think that, oh, we could change the color or something. It's not as if other people didn't have, but brands struggle with change. And you have to make sure that every decision that you're making is right for that moment, right? When you're choosing, when you say, okay, let's change this. Um, exactly, Sprite. They may just change one thing, right? But that's it. That's all they want. I have this belief that a huge part of what keeps Sprite relevant is rebranding. I have this theory that a huge part of what keeps them relevant is the way they switch up the brand because I feel there's a reason to it. I don't believe that it is just because the designer is being paid times 10 a lot of time. I think that the freshness of their look is a huge part of why they are still relevant and why they still stay ahead, right? The fact that when you go like, oh, okay, the bottle just looks fresh, like cool and stuff like that. I have the theory. It's just a theory, but yes, because they are one that rebrands a lot. Khalid, you don't get questions now. Let's go to the case study. We'll come back to this. So let me show you guys. I'm going to show you a video that I worked on. And this is just because, and then I'm going to show you the process to the video. This was a video that was worked on, which is like pest share that I said was worked on recently. I hope you are able to hear the audio. Please let me know. I should be wrapping up soon. I'm sorry if it's going too long. Share sound. Yes, it's not. I know. I'm coming. What does it mean by optimize for video share? Let's just. Can you see? Can you see the video? Let me know. Yes, okay, Elizabeth said yes. Okay, so let me know if you can hear the sound. I'm going to play it for a bit. Just let me know if you can hear the sound.
Every time a tenant flags a pest issue,
Did you hear the sound? Okay, so
every time a tenant flags a pest issue, someone on your team has to pick it up, call the vendor, follow up, create the work order, track it, update the tenant. Not a big deal for one unit, but across hundreds or thousands of units, randomly, every week, it quietly eats into your team's time.
Not for him, not anymore.
1,000 plus property management companies have shown it doesn't have to be this way. Your team doesn't have to be in the middle, chasing everything down. That's because they have Pest Share. Tenants submit directly, vendors get dispatched automatically. And if something doesn't go right, it gets flagged. So you're not finding out from a frustrated tenant later. The best part? It connects with your existing tech. Most teams are set up in a few days. And honestly, it's just one less thing landing on someone's desk. If you manage 300 plus doors and want to see how it works, schedule a 15-minute demo today.
okay. So that's the video, and I'm going to explain why I showed that right now. And the process to achieving that. A huge part of the beginning of the video was hugely AI generated, right? But the process towards generating that is what I just want to explain. And I've not showed this to anyone yet. So you people are very, very lucky to be part of the few that are going to be seeing that right now. So let's see. So yes, I think it's loading up. Does anyone have any thoughts as to what tool that I used to create the video? Just for context, I used probably about 4 tools. I used Claude, I used Flow, I used Weavy, I used um, After Effects, and then I don't know if I used CapCut for anything. I think I wanted to use it for the caption, but I don't think I eventually did add caption to it. I just added text. I didn't add like a subtitle kind of caption. So yes, those are the kind of tools. I used Claude, I used Flow, I used Weavy, and then I think also used Envato. Envato also has like an AI tool. I don't know why this is taking forever to open. I had opened it before, but let's go to this first. I think I can show you guys this while we wait. Okay, so if you can still remember the video, these are all the images of the prompt that were images that were generated first, right? All this for each frame of the video, right, were generated by images first, right? And then each of them were now animated for each sequence, right? So all of these were imaged from before for the top head shots to the side shots to this other shot to the other shots. Now, this can apply to whatever you are using design for. The most important thing is the prompting that I'm trying to get into, right? And why that is very important in whatever you're creating, right? AI did not know any of these things that I wanted to create. I knew what I wanted to create. I knew I wanted it to look like, right? My own job was to research about what I wanted people to feel from the video, how I wanted to communicate that. We didn't have any footage, so what exactly are the images that I wanted to shoot for like a before and after feel of, people experiencing the product, right? So I was like, okay, I needed a back shot. I needed someone like this. So I really want the AI to show with the prompting. But if you click reuse prompt, you can see some of the prompts here. Same mid-40s property manager, identical character, wave, dark wave here. Now the difference between flow, now this is flow, right? I'm sorry I didn't explain that to you. So, but this is flow and it's a Google AI tool, right? Typically when you come here, it should look like I think it's the internet. I'm gonna switch. So you guys give me a moment. Okay, very good. Can you all see this? Can you see all the nodes? I believe so. Okay. So for example, now you can see this. This is like image one. This is prompts. This is the video, right? So when you play this now, when you come here again, you'd see the image, you see the prompt, you see the video. Now, basically the way Weavy functions is that, say for example, I get an image of, so I'm going to do a sharp one first quickly. You need an image. Okay, let's see this. So when you drop an image here, right, basically when you open with all you need to do is drop an image first. That's basically your starting point. Drop an image, drop whatever you want to use, right, the reference or whatnot. Now, basically what you need to do is to then drag this file, right? When you drag that point, all you have to then choose is whatever prompt that you know that you want to use. So I think Weavy has been doing this for a while, but if you choose Grok, it's there. If you choose Nano Banana, whatever AI you're looking for, it's probably here, right? So it's kind of like just connects that to this. Then from here, you then have to just drag your prompt and then put it, click prompts, and then type your prompt. Now, the difference between like a JSON prompt and this, it usually comes with 150 units, but Flow is entirely free, which is why I like Flow. Flow is completely free. You can generate as many images as you want, and is entirely free. And the reason why I like Flow is, for example, let's say create an image for men dancing. When you click here, you can choose the number of the size. You can also choose how many variations you want it. Exactly, for now, but it is free for now. I actually think it's going to be free for a while. I hope, and I'm hoping that at some point, image generation will become very to the point where people know that, okay, like just searching for something, right? Like image generation will be that easy to be able to find that it wouldn't make sense that you have to pay so much money for it, except if you want to use it for high level stuff, right? Except if you want to use it for high level stuff. So I'm really hoping that it gets to the point that, okay, image generation is really, it's like the baseline of using AI, but there's like multiple things to be able to use it for. So let's say create an image of format. You can choose two, you can choose three, you can choose whatever this is. And then you just need to click. So let's say we choose this and then you click this. You're able to this one is network stuff. I need to switch my network. But yeah, it's going to generate 4 versions of the image for you. And the beautiful thing I like about it is that while it's generating that, you can send another one. So you're not stuck in that, okay, you're waiting for it to finish one. You can send another one. The only reason why I think people don't like it and people prefer ChatGPT is that it's like, ChatGPT is like you're chatting. So the moment you say, oh, I don't like this, he can talk back to you. I don't like ChatGPT, I prefer Claude because Claude is more of, he helps you to think, right? It thinks more. ChatGPT is always trying to please, if I say, and he's always trying to do that. And I think that brings us to the end of our class. The last thing that I have for everyone here is another thing about Claude is that I've synced Claude with my email. I've synced Claude with my Slack, with my Drive, with my. So if I ask it, okay, I'm looking for this, it can be able to help me answer that, right? Although I'm paying for like the Cloud Pro, right? But again, I think it's still better than ChatGPT by mile, by mile. So we're going to do the last thing, right? Which is like a game, right? Just to, but before we play the game, does anyone have any question? Any question? I need to plug my laptop. It's a bit low. But yeah, does anyone have any question that we've not answered or anything that was there? Any question?
Oh, my chief. There are actually a number of questions right now. I don't know if you can see them.
Okay, let me check. So Debbie, can you explain how to go about Figma MCP? I think you might need to explain this, what you mean in that context. You can unmute and try to ask that, and just give me like an example. There are AI models that do better than more do better than others in some way? Would you recommend Claude specifically for everything, or you can add others? Um, I use Claude, I use ChatGPT, but each almost we're almost done. Like, recording will end. We stop in 2 minutes. You can invite to continue recording. I don't know. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to try to rush and answer everybody. There are AI models that do better than others in some way. Would you recommend Claude specifically? Yes, I would recommend Claude for a lot of things, to be honest, when it comes to process. I have a workflow where I'm able to use Claude to generate prompts for design. And the thing about Flow is that it's able to generate designs and text. It can generate a flyer for you, like accurately, right, with text. And then when you're able to give it like a JSON prompt, you are able to remove certain things and say, okay, this thing should be this thing should take 50% of the design, this thing should take 40% of the design, this thing should take 20% of the design, this thing should be by left, this thing should be by right. With Flow and with like a JSON prompt, you're able to articulate that and give it to kind of like give that. Yeah, I think it applies more to dev. Um, um, but I think there are other ways to kind of like use like other AI tools that have like their own LLMs. For portfolio building project showcase, is it enough to simply be good at UI design and still graphic design, or is it, or in this age and time, every product design should be good? Mm, no, and I think I would say this to put people at ease. I don't think as a product designer, yes, Flow, you can create video with Flow also. I don't think as a product designer, you need to understand motion graphics. I don't think it's compulsory, but I would advise that, I don't know. I don't think it's compulsory. I think it depends on what kind of product designer that you want to be. I have a friend that works with like a company. I'm not gonna say name, but he works as a product designer. And that's just he just solves problem with like product designer. Like if you're really good at one thing, you really don't need to like have like a lot of things. But if you're trying to find your footing, I think it's important to understand, a lot of what all those things are saying. If you're doing freelance, you're in trouble. That's where the problem is. That's when you need to learn all these things. But if you are working with like a company and you're the kind of people that like to scale and grow with the company, you might not need to worry about that. The reason why I always advise designers to know a bit of other things, and to be able to communicate it, right, is just so that you have like a wealth of knowledge in a conversation that people are not able to push you aside, like you know much about it. For example, the reason why I know motion graphics, all these things, is because when I speak about it, I'm able to give feedback to the motion team. I'm able to give feedback to the product team. I'm able to give feedback to these people. You might not like it, but I think it's still very important to just know what it's about. So when you're talking about motion graphics as a producer, at least you should know what frames are. You should know that way you're able to see, like if you're talking about giving someone motion to help you work on, you know exactly the how in terms of how it goes about it. There are AI tools now that you could also even use to create specific videos, right? I haven't started using AI to create motion graphics, but I've been able to use AI to create clips and frames that will join together in After Effects and edit and stuff like that. I think when you want to now use AI to create a full video, you need to put money into it to create it. For now, you're not going to be able to kind of like just create a full video without like spending a lot of money. Maybe not a lot, because you people on Discord, it seems like you people are rich. Is it good to generate John, I don't understand. Is it good to go to use AI to generate screen for a company project? Hmm. No, to be honest, it's not. I think it's good to generate. No, I don't see how it helps you, to be honest. It is good to good. Now, I think this is it. There's a tool called UX Pilot, right? I don't know if everyone knows UX Pilot. I use UX Pilot to generate interfaces, right? It can generate landing pages, can generate websites and stuff like that. I use that, but then I didn't refine it. I think UX Pilot is the only one tool that I'll probably advise you, because you can impute the branding into it. There's a new tool that Google released that I've seen that I've been planning on using. Maybe this weekend I'll use it, but I can't remember. I think that one also is very good for branding, for like UI design. But don't just generate screen and not be able to shoot. Another thing again that separates designers is, even if you're able to use this, AI to create something, you need to still be able to create it yourself. It's very important that you can still create it yourself. Even if you can't create it yourself, you need to be able to know how it is created, right? You need to know exactly how it is created so that you can explain it. It is very important that you know how it's created so you can explain it and what people, because you don't want to jump on the corner and say, use AI to draw this thing. You wouldn't, it would destabilize you because you have no knowledge of how it was created. What do you do when your design taste feels higher than your current skill level? That's actually very good. If your design taste is higher than your current skill level, it's actually very good. Um, but in that particular case, I think it just helps you to be able to know what is missing in your design. I think that is the stage that I am. I mean, I don't know exactly. I mean, I don't know if it's higher than my skill, but what I'm trying to say is that I know what is needed to make something look good, right? So in my head, right, and I used to have a friend, right, that he knew that something was bad. Every time he would just call me, like, okay, Shalom, I just need your brain on this particular thing. I feel like it's not looking good enough. And then I'm able to help him problem solve and tell him, okay, this is always good to have. I mean, I think it's very good for designers to have mentors or people that you have their contacts that you can just really talk to occasionally because design to some extent sometimes messes with my own mental health. My product design keeps getting broader. Yes, product design is promised. Promise said, okay, promise, thank you. How do we use flow? Is video in AI never reach, but I understand. One more, I have been a generalist designer for a while and I'm looking to specialize in enterprise design. Enterprise design is a dark brush. Any tips on how I can go about this? Why is there a main reason why you want to specialize? Do you feel like that is the thing? Do you enjoy doing that more than all the other aspects of design? Oh yeah, Stitch by Google. Yeah, I think that's it. You people are smart. Oh, yeah, Babe. Kalize, you make it. Promise, do you want to speak to this? Okay, I mean, for me, as long as you enjoy doing something, right, it's okay to be a specialist in it, right? The reason why um most people feel like, oh, okay, I've not found what I'm good at, or I've not found this because the majority of the things they don't actually enjoy it, right? They are just doing it for the sake of like, okay, maybe funds or for something else, right? The part of design that I love the most is brand design. However, I don't know how to sit in one place, right? Majority of things intrigue me, right? Like I can see something else and I'm like very intrigued by it. So for you that you say you're looking to move into this, I think you need to find someone that it's already very good at it, right? And you need to pay close attention. I prefer working together with someone that I know already knows something that I know better than I do, than just trying to figure it out on my own. Although majority of the things I learned, I had to wing it. But one of the things that, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, is that occasionally I feel like I still need to go to design school. I don't know if anyone feels that. I still feel like, oh, there's still something that I've not learned. There's still something that as much as I'm self-taught, there's still something missing that I've not yet been able to kind of like understand or like connect. And sometimes I tell myself that, oh, okay, okay, maybe I need to go to like a school. I mean, a lot of my friends, a lot of people tell me that, oh, okay, um, why? Like there's nothing you need and there's nothing there. To be honest, I've had a job where a designer that was they felt like they needed to get someone that was a pro. So they got someone that had gone to design school and he was now my team lead, right? But eventually, like he studied outside the country. So eventually I was the better designer, right? And that was like validation for me, right? Not proper university, just like a structured system of learning for design. Something that sometimes I just feel like I didn't spend enough time testing out like the beginning, right, of it, right? And I think for you guys that are here, maybe this is the helping that you need with old school. Um, I don't know. I feel like it's risky to drop my number here, but I'm not, so I'm not going to do that. So, but yeah, you have my Instagram, you have my Twitter. I think I shared that in the beginning. So you guys can reach out to me on Instagram. I would respond. And yes, someone said, I feel that no. Someone, there's a question I really like. How do you find your area of specialization? That was a problem for my younger sister, but I always knew what she was good at, right? If it depends when you're looking at something, what are the things you spot first? right? Some people, when they look at experience or um, things, the first thing they spot is, okay, I like the color. Some people, when they see something, okay, I like how it flows. That is how you know, your area of space. The things that your eye is moved by is probably what your brain is able to come up with more, right? And that's how you kind of like know. Like for my sister, like every time we're doing design, the things that she was fascinated by were the illustrations. So in my head, I was like, there's no way you're going to be able to like product design. It's not, you can't enjoy it, right? Because what you're more concerned about is illustrations, right? What you need is a tablet, man. You need to be able to illustrate. That's what you're going to do, right? Her brain is like in a way whereby that is what she enjoys. So the things that you're able to spot in processes, in systems, those are the things that you need to kind of like specialize, because a majority of people find that very difficult. They're like, oh, what am I really good at? I used to have a friend that, okay, he was very good at talking. I told him, guy, but wait, you're supposed to be a marketer. Um, right. So it's very easy for you to figure out those things if you just see that, okay, there are certain things that you're able to spot first before other people in design. I hope I've been able to answer your question. I really wish we could have played the game that I wanted us to play. Um, just for everyone to bond. I'm just gonna drop the IG and we can end. Jake Shalom Jacobs, IG, and then um what is my Twitter? Yeah, Shalom Jacobs. Um, Test it out, man. Like Candy, like test it out, right? Spend Put it on your calendar, right? Give it like maybe an hour a day for a week, right? And just read about it. Sometimes I've been interested in forex trading for a while, right? And I'm like, oh, I wanted to go into forex trading. The moment I put it and it's boring me, I can't feel any. I'll just drop it because it's not as much as it's the reason why I'm fascinated by it is because of the things that I hear from a lot of people. Okay, this thing is cool. But the majority of the things that we do or that we say that we really like is peer influence, which is why you see that when you are on Instagram, right? Um, the moment you see something, the first thing you do is you go to the comment section. We are so quick to allow people's influence to fascinate us to like that. And the moment you jump to comment section, you have allowed your brain, like you have taken the time for your brain to be able to come up with your own conclusion about what you are seeing, right? So the moment you jump to the comment section, you now see how this person feels like, this person is not serious. So that now becomes your own opinion, right? So when you see something, sometimes take a minute to just develop your own opinion about it. You don't need to immediately jump to comment section and say, people are laughing about this person, and immediately just shifts your mindset. It just shifts how you think. Yeah, but I think that is it. Ore, back to you. I think that is it. Anyone else? I think that's it. Thank you so much, guys, for joining. Thank you for listening. Thank you for paying attention. Usi Richard, how do you move from the trap of copying designs rather than creating or originating new concepts? Um, so there's a difference between now stealing, there's a difference between copying and stealing, right? Stealing is, oh, I like how the effect here is. I'll take that. Copying is verbatim, that, oh, exactly the did. It is still okay to steal things. It is very wrong to copy, right? So when you're working on design, right, how you move from now, a big part of what as designers, what helps us is our visual archive, right? And it is what is they are building in AI right now, right? You'd notice that, oh, they're always feeding AI a lot of things, right? It's to build their mind so that they're able to think, right? It,
Hello, Khalid. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Did Shalom just drop off? Because I thought
Yeah,
I
he
was
just
hearing
did.
him answer a question.
Yeah, he just did.
Well,
Was trying to answer a question by I'm thinking that it's network or something, but it was already wrapping up. So I don't know, maybe we'll give him time to join back. But if he's not joining back anytime soon, we'll
I
just
think he will join back. I'm trying to reach him.
all
But
right.
generally, how was the session before he joins back? I would just like to get feedback from everyone.
So,
Hello, good evening.
you guys, folks, you guys can raise your hands so you can talk.
I know Khalid has been on stage, so the time is calling me.
I don't know. We can go just hang around for about 5 more minutes and okay, yeah, Ora is back now.
Yeah, he called me, but he's joining back soon to answer the last question. But I'd still like to get feedback from someone. Like just raise your hand and share how the session was for you. Or you can just drop it in the chat.
Honestly, it'd be nice to hear someone else speak. Just say something. But whilst the person is gathering courage. So the session was quite insightful. And I'm glad I was able to make time for it. And yeah, I think what stood out to me, I would say, is his approach to things. He actually thinks like someone that is really creative. So and yeah, and like watching him like explain things and say stuff sort of sparked something in me. So yeah, it's one of those folks that you listen to and you get ideas and you get pumped and charged that you are doing the right thing. So yeah, I don't know what another person would say, but that's it for me.
All right, thank you so much. You should ask questions.
Hi everyone.
I don't get yes,
Can
Shalom, I can hear you.
I think I missed I don't remember the last question. Sorry guys. My network, I think it has a timeout or something, but I can't remember what I was answering. Can the person
I
just
think
send?
you're answering the difference between copying and
Yes, 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 yes. I wish I could show a practical example, but I'm just gonna say that there's a difference between stealing and copying, like I already said, right? I still steal things from design, but and I would be honest with you, like when you first start designing, it is very difficult not to copy because your brain hasn't formed yet, right? When you look at like a child that's trying to like draw or do their very start, the majority of the things that they're doing, right? They're just enjoying themselves, right? As a young designer, you have nothing in your mind, right? So how do you expect to even be able to come up with something? How do you expect to be able to design something if you've not consumed enough? Right. So how you move from copying to stealing is that you need to consume design. Like you need to eat it. Like the way Kari said that this is his dinner, right? Um, I can spend a lot of time on Pinterest just scrolling at, I can just get into a loophole. Like once I see a particular image, it just keeps bringing other things and you just consume. Sometimes you just study those things, right? And you just let it sit in your mind for a minute. That is how you are able to just come up with new ideas yourself, right? It's not as if the idea is new, but it's just that you've probably seen it and someone else has not thought of it. How can you think of using, for example, you see some designs where text is flat, like a road. how can your mind conceptualize a text being like forming the road to something if you've not seen anything remotely close to it, right? Um, and if you've seen something in another field, then you're able to now apply that into your own field, right? If you've seen, okay, like in a design about something, I saw that they use the road as a demarcation, or they use it, they're like, oh, okay, text can use. I think one person that is able to copy, that's able to steal things very well that I like is Carve, right? If you see a lot of the things that she does, right, is that it's from life, it's from things that she's seen in different fields, it's from things that she's seen in different niches and different areas as well. So when you're working on design, there's a difference between copying and stealing, right? When you look at the design, break it down. The first thing you need to do is to break whatever you see down, right? And understand the why behind every of the thing that they've done there. The moment you understand the why, you're able to know what exactly you can steal and what exactly it's like when you have a friend in the exam hall that you're copying, they're trying to see his stuff or something like that, right? Before you go and copy the name of the person, you need to understand. And the reason why the reason that separates the people that they catch and people is the people that don't actually know anything about the problem that they are solving. So they're just copying it exactly, right? So they're just copying it entirely verbatim. They don't know exactly what it is. Those ones, they'll catch you and you implicate the person. But the point is that when you're creating something that is supposed to solve a problem, it cannot be the same answer as another one that already existed. There's no way, right? So you need to make sure that whatever you've seen before that you really like and when it fascinates you, don't stop there. Because sometimes what happens is that you go to Pinterest and you're scrolling and you see something, this design is really, really good. And your mind immediately wants to just grab it and just continue from where you saw that. Don't stop there, save that to your mood board and continue looking. I think that is the best answer I can give you. So the moment you continue looking, you are forming a track, a track path of creativity around you where you have like five different things, right, that you're able to pick inspiration from. So the moment you see something first in that now speaks to like, oh, what you really like, do not stop there because that's what a lazy designer would do. A lazy designer will say, okay, motivating because like I've seen exactly what it is. And the designer will just say, okay, I'm copying everything from this into this, and that's the end. Thank you very much. I hope I've been able to answer your question.
Thank you so much, Shalom, for your time. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. All right. Okay, Khalid is the host.
Hello. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. All right.
All right. Thank you so much, Shalom, for your time and for taking out like trying to help our learners. I'm sure they are all like really appreciative of your time and the knowledge you have shared so far. So I like for us to just like Shalom with flowers. Even though we don't have actual flowers, but just give him like a round of applause and thank you for his time. And yeah, he's someone you want to definitely like keep in touch with. So you can follow him on his social media pages that he has shared. And can also like write a review about the session, what you liked, what particularly stood out for you. And yeah, we hope to see more of this. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And I hope you do have a restful weekend. Once again, thank you so much, Shalom. And yeah, I'm grateful for continuous time.
All right.
Khalid,
Khalid.
another minute again. This is 8:22. You, what do you want to say? Go on.
Oh, okay. Same
Go
with
with
you.
me. Oh, okay,
Okay.
okay, okay. All right. Thank you
All
so much, Shalom.
right. Bye, guys. Take care. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
All right, then yeah, all right. I sort of made it public, right? The whole talk around submission being extended to Sunday. That still holds, Abi.
Yeah. So I know that I think Friday plus having the session also might have taken some of our time. So yes, I would extend the submissions to Sunday. So for those that have submitted that might feel cheated, it's like the link is obviously you can still like make adjustments or anything without like you to not do for submission. Or from Sunday, yeah, submissions will close and
All right,
they do it again.
I just needed you to like make mention of it. So like,
Oh, you wanted me to see so that it's not be like Khalid that said it and then I go ahead to listen.
I just will feel and throw me under
Don't
the
worry.
bus. Yeah.
Don't worry. I've not failed you, so I won't sound no problem. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining.
Well, then you
And
too.
please,
Thanks a lot.
yeah, your feedback would definitely help with scheduling other sessions like this. And when I'm reaching out to people, they can also see like track work. So please help me drop reviews and feedbacks for this session. You can drop it on LinkedIn and tag Shalom or anywhere. Please. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. You have a great week.
Yeah, you as well. Take care.
Bye.